gentlemen, it's a battle of battles. That's the Lok Sabha elections 2024. And Maharashtra is the second largest state in terms of seat shares, a mammoth 48 seats, just next to the 80 seats of Uttar Pradesh. There's a verdict by the High Court on Maratha Quota. The Bombay High Court has refused to stay the Maratha Quota, not allowing any urgent orders on the interim relief for a stay on operation on the quota sought by petitioners, and posted the matter for its next hearing till June 13th. And this is important. Here's why. Well, after the Lok Sabha elections are over in India, Maharashtra votes in 5 phases and the counting is on the 4th of June. That's when you get to know the results. And that's hearing on the Maratha Quota happens only after that. So what does this mean? Before we go any further, there's also an important part of the order. The High Court reiterated the condition from its earlier order, that any admission or employment given under the quota would be subject to final outcome of these petitions. So is the fact that no interim stay has been given is a huge verdict, but is it a booster shot or a double-edged sword? Allow us to first bring you some critical facts. Why is the Maratha Quota a make or break for these elections? Marathas form 28% of Maharashtra's population and have been given 10% of reservations. And this is not just it, by the way. We'll get to that. Marathwada has 8 Lok Sabha seats. Of these, the MVA has announced candidates on all 8. These include 6 from the Maratha community. The ruling Mahayuti Alliance too has declared candidates for 7 of these seats. Among them, 4 are Marathas. At least half of the 48 seats in 2019 were won by Marathas. This is according to the print. It's in this backdrop that Maharashtra government, amid massive protests led by Jarange Patil, approved a law last month providing 10% reservation in educational institutions and government jobs to the Maratha community, very closely resembling the 2018 Socially and Educationally Backward Classes Act of 2018. And this is the 3rd instance in the past decade that the state has proposed a legislation for a Maratha Quota. Now, what is the new law? Well, for starters, it does not impact the current OBC reservation quota in terms of increasing or decreasing the limit, and is separate from the government's decision to issue Kunbi caste certificates to eligible Marathas for inclusion in the OBC category. And here's the big concern, and I'm emphasizing the word big. This new 10% quota for Marathas gets added to the existing, mark my words, 62% reservations already existing in the state. And the state, by the way, already has a 10% reservation for the economically weaker sections. And the Marathas are a big beneficiary for that as well. Now, why did I say a big concern? The Supreme Court bench in 1992, by a 6-3 majority, upheld the OBC quota in what has popularly come to be known as the Mandal judgment. However, it also ruled that the total quota must never exceed 50%, calling this fair and reasonable. The court had ordered that 50% reservations rule may be deviated only in certain extraordinary situations. But in doing so, to quote the court, extreme caution is to be exercised and a special case made out. Now, here's the interesting part. In 2018, the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly passed a legislation granting 16% reservation in higher education admissions as well as public service employment to the Maratha community, increasing the total reservations in these domains in the state to 68%. And what is interesting is, this was struck down by the Supreme Court in 2021 for violating the 50% ceiling establishment in its 1992 judgment. And remember, Marathas have traditionally enjoyed a dominant position in Maharashtra's politics and cooperative sector. But after the Mandal Commission decision on OBC quota, the struggle between Marathas and OBCs started significantly, and particularly the geographical challenges in this terrain has only added up to this. And what do I mean by the geographical challenges? I really mean the agrarian crisis worsened by even climate change. In fact, the OBCs are upset, and almost 50% of Maharashtra's population. So are the votes going to be consolidated, or are the votes going to be polarized? And what does this mean for the different political equations, but most importantly, for the 48 seats that are up for grabs in a state that has the second largest Lok Sabha seats in the country, in an election that is going to be seen as a defining moment in India's history. I'm being joined by Asif Bhamla right now, who's a political analyst, Krishna Hegde, who's a spokesperson for Shiv Sena, Kishore Tiwari, who's a spokesperson for Shiv Sena of the UBT faction, as well as Dr. Nikul Patel, who's a political analyst. Thank you very much, all four of you, for joining us. Asif Bhamla ji, to you first. Booster dose or a double-edged sword?
Sorry, come back. I'm having a little audio problem. Hello.
Mr. Asif Bhamla, the court's verdict today, which essentially is that there's going to be no interim relief, no stay. Is this a booster dose or is this a double-edged sword?
You see, the Bharatiya Janata Party had earlier, it was the first, the Honorable Chief Minister Devendra ji who had proposed and propagated the Maratha Reservation Arrangement. We ensured, we fought tooth and nail to ensure the existence of this, and of course it was the framework was set in a very appropriate manner that it would work in the court of law. But as you know, that beyond 50% is anyways a very challenging issue. Then again, the MVA came into power, and the 2.5 years of its existing, the courts have been regularly asking for the legitimate documentation, which obviously the government then under Uddhav Thackeray ji had not been able to produce. You see, the legitimate document, so it could not stand in the court of law, and apparently that was again relinquished. So now again we've requested, but then within the framework, of course, now today is of course nearly a month after that, the High Court had directed and filed its replies, you see, and there is an interim stay on the quota, and today a full bench was constituted on the hearing, you see.
Asif Bhamla, just to clarify, there is no interim stay.
No, but the affidavits that have been filed of the Kunbi Samajas for the 10% reservation that have been allocated has been stayed, of course, till June, I understand. Okay, so as far as the government is concerned, the intentions with the government is definitely very, very clear that we certainly want a reservation for the Marathas, which we will, and of course, Shinde ji and Devendra Fadnavis ji have ensured that this time where, in front of the court, the legitimate documentations have been proved in such a way that it stands strong in the court of law. Of course, people have filed affidavit. That is the job of the people to understand. But as a government, our job and our intention is very clear, because we've always. So let me ask my opponents that so many years there were so many tall leaders of the Maratha community in the past. Why did they not have the courage to even approve this?
All right.
In fact, this whole rigmarole and this entire situation has been slapped to the Maharashtra government.
All right, Mr. Asif,
give me 5 seconds.
Remark.
Give me 5
you significant time.
With the state government.
All right.
Because of the
allow me, Mr. Asif Bhamla, to go to others as well. I've given you significant time.
And that's the unfortunate part of this.
To Mr. Kishore Tiwari. Asif Bhamla has said that the intent of the government is very clear. Is that how you see it as well, considering you've also been in power?
Decision and the status quo has been maintained. In fact, we are of the opinion that the issue of a Maratha reservation should be resolved. When 16% reservation was given, we were part of it. And now it was struck down by the Supreme Court and new resolution was passed. It was passed unanimously. And the same condition now prevails. The Supreme Court should understand that it is extraordinary circumstances in Maharashtra where the Maratha community who are economically weaker are being given reservation in a special circumstances, and it is exceeding the limit that is beyond for 50%. So is the case. So there is no politics involved. The matter has been stayed by the High Court, and High Court will start the final hearing after June. And once the High Court settles the things, then the Supreme Court, the apex court, the full bench has the verdict over it. We have to see that it is being upheld by the Supreme Court, being extraordinary circumstances. We support the Maratha election, and we want to see that economically weaker section people who are old Kunbis but being not certified as a Kunbis, they should be resolved. It is beyond politics and election politics also. The issue is very serious and critical, and I would like to avoid any political comment over the things. And the court has maintained the status quo. Let us hope the court upheld the decision of Maharashtra government, and then the all documentation will be given to the Supreme Court.
There are so many things that divide and blur political lines, but there's nothing, literally nothing, that unites political parties like vote bank. That's the biggest uniting factor, and that's what you will largely have at play in Maharashtra. But let me come across to you, Krishna Hegdeji. Not all is well within the Mahayuti as well. You had your stalwart leader storm out of the cabinet, extremely upset that what is happening. Now, you may get the support of the Marathas. What about the OBC community? There seems to be such a flare-up within the OBC community. They are so upset.
Sneha, first of all, if you're talking about Mr. Bhujbal, I would say that as a minister in the government and as a legislator in the House, he was aware of all the proceedings which happened, both in the cabinet and in the legislature in the House as well. Secondly, I would not dispute his way of protecting the OBCs because he himself is an OBC leader. But well said and done. We have our Honorable Chief Minister has clearly said that we are not affecting the OBC reservation and they have nothing to fear. Thirdly, I must say that this Maratha reservation for us is not a political issue. It is more a commitment, an issue of commitment which our Chief Ministers, Chief Minister Mr. Eknath Shindeji and two Deputy Chief Ministers, Ajit Dada Pawar and
You
Devendra
said Chief Ministers. Did you mean only the BJP or the NDA or the Mahayuti Chief Ministers, or you meant Maharashtra Chief Ministers in all?
No. Our Chief Ministers, as Devendra Fadnavis ji earlier, and then Eknath Shinde, along with the two deputy chief ministers, Ajit Dada Pawar, who have actually worked very hard to survey almost, 2 crores houses to issue these certificates. And the Maharashtra State Backward Class Commission had gone on a 24-hour, 24 by 7. They were working for this cause. For us, it is not a political issue, but it is more a issue of commitment, a more emotional issue, a more a moral issue, and we are committed to our Maratha brothers and sisters. And therefore, I am happy today that the Honorable High Court has said that there is no stay on the Maratha reservation on a petition filed by Advocate Gunaratna Sadavarte. And they are going to hear it in the full bench later in
Okay.
June, which also we respect. But we would also request that, this whole issue, which we are committed to the people, this comes through and the Marathas get their due. Actually, the Marathas are not a rich
So
community.
here's
If
my
you look
next
at
big
the
question.
survey,
But before I come to the one of the big questions, sir, let me also go across at this point to Nikul Patel. Dr. Nikul Patel, now my big question is, quota pe quota, quota pe quota, quota pe quota, and quota pe quota, and quota pe quota. It's a never-ending thing. When you do the math and you see a 72% reservation, what does one make out?
See, reservation, when it comes to legislation, the people who are sitting there feels that we want to go for elections and we want to contest and we should satisfy the need of the people. But already, if you see the government that is there in Maharashtra had, though it was a BJP government in 2018, they come with the proposal and finally the entire hurdle had go to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court had given that beyond 50% anything is not possible, and that is what the judgment was. And finally, it was discarded. But the present government had not taken a lesson from it, and they want to give quota on quota. No doubt, whenever you whenever you have to uplift the particular community, there is a constitutional provision under Article 3 for that is 332 one minute. It is Article 342A, where state can maintain their own list for socially economical backward class. But that 27% within that, you can provide by providing economical weaker section by providing a creamy layer. So I think quota pe quota, it's something which is going to hurt the entire people who are into a general category, because Supreme Court, this battle will go long, because High Court had right now just said that we'll be hearing after June. So before that, I think Lok Sabha elections will be over, and I think present government would like to take an advantage of it that we are with this community. But again, I think it will go to the Supreme Court, and finally, what happened in the past will happen again. So I don't think that this will help out Eknath Shinde's government putting a reservation to this particular community. So I feel that they must have not done it.
Okay. Okay, Asif Bhamla, this question to you. Now you heard what Dr. Nikul Patel said. My question to you is based out of what the verdict came today. And the verdict reiterated its stand. That if at all, it thinks when the case is taken up, and if it doesn't find that the legislation is in accordance to the merit or the spirit of what the court has said earlier in 1992, it will strike it down. So all the employments or the that you're making in the education or in the public sector, whatsoever it be, they all will be conditional and all would be struck down. So what's the game plan? Are you going to start using this quota and giving out the benefit to people?
You see, our intentions is clear. Our issue of commitment towards the reservation for the Maratha community is not, again, because, am I hearing this? Volume. Hello? Can you hear me?
All right, let's just allow Mr. Asif Bhamla to sort out his audio issue. No, meanwhile, I'll take this question to Mr. Shinde. I can hear you. No, I'll take it to Mr. Krishna Hegde.
I can answer. Hello.
There seems to be some confusion. Let's just let Mr. Asif Bhamla just sort out the audio issue. He seems to be having some audio issue. Let me just take this question to Krishna Hegde at this point. Krishna Hegde, do you want to respond I think Asif Bhamla is having some audio issues, sir. So I'll just take this question to you. What is
Yeah,
the
it is like
intent? Are
this.
you going to be using this legislation to implement it, to give the reservations to, will it be reaching the people? Will it be getting the will the beneficiaries be getting the results before the election? Because I'm asking you this, what if the court next time strikes this down?
Sneha, it is like this that the government has assured them 10%, reservation in jobs and education. So whatever comes between that, we will be offering it to them. Of course, that subject to the court decision, we will be giving a disclaimer. And therefore, like I said before, our government is committed to the people. They're committed to the Marathas. We are also equally committed to the OBCs, and we do not want to affect their reservation. And we want to, this is a government which works for the people. It works for the benefit of the people, irrespective of caste and religion in the state of Maharashtra.
No, sir, I mean that irrespective of caste and religion is going to be a little difficult, because if you look at the reservation politics, not only in Maharashtra, but in several states, caste is very crucial. And for anyone who's in politics and journalism will know that very, very clearly, sir. But Asif Bhamla, since the audio line seems to be fixed fixed for now, do you want to respond to the question that I said? अभी तो आप beneficiaries को दे देंगे इसका benefit, and later on when it's struck down, if at all it is struck down, very high chances that it might, because it has to be proved in court. Whether it is proved or not, that has to be seen. But with 72% of reservation in Maharashtra, if this gets struck down and if people have been given the jobs based on these reservations, what happens to them? Intent से थोड़ी ना काम चलता है, sir.
You see, it's indeed very unfortunate. People do not cast vote. People vote to the caste. ये एक सत्य है इस देश का, इस देश की राजनीति का और इस देश के वोटिंग पैटर्न का. उस पर हम बहस नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि इंटेंशन तो विपक्षियों का भी लगता है कि दे ऑल्सो हैव दिस. ये अलग बात है कि उन्होंने अपने कार्यकाल में इसको इतनी लेजिटिमेसी नहीं दे पाई कि वो कोर्ट के चौकटी पर टिक पाए. Lekin, now without me going into that frame, our intentions, like Krishna mentioned, is that we cannot harm the backwards also. So we are in a catch-22 situation. And there are the courts. I mean, how do we fight the courts? It's the Marathas who have to understand the intentions of the government is there. As my friend mentioned, that according to Article 342A, the socially backward class का जो reservation वो अपनी जगह है. अभी हमने beyond the point of a reservation, there was a state in Hyderabad which they have gone. We are still studying even that aspect of it. But you see, every party wants to ensure that that maximum it can give, whether you get a political leverage or no is not a. But वहाँ पर लोग भड़काने वाले, गलत दिशा में लेके जाने वाले भी कई लोग हैं, कई activists हैं जो ये काम कर रहे हैं. And that's very unfortunate, because they are playing at the cost of the community and of the welfare of the state, which they don't understand by and large. But as a government, because the commitment of the government is there, it was even when Devendra Fadnavis ji was the CM. It is now that Eknath ji, Devendra ji and Ajit Dada, we are there. But people don't understand this. They want to say the level of understanding within the given arrangement and framework of law, and how can we fight the courts? We have रात दिन एक करके हमने तमाम एफिडेविट फाइल कराए कुनबीस की, अन्य समाज की, to ensure that we have a composite and a proper plan to put forth in front of the court of law. But we cannot take we are also binded by the hearing, by the court legislation as a political party. That's all I can say.
Okay. To you, Mr. Kishore Tiwari. Now, let's face the facts. Caste and politics is very critical to winning elections. You may take a moral high ground that you're with the government, because obviously you cannot fight the ire of any group, particularly the Marathas. Now, when I'm asking you this question, reservations technically is nothing short of social engineering. This is to give equal representation, equal rights and equal opportunities. But when you're looking at a 72% reservation in a state like Maharashtra with a massive population and 72%, sir, then isn't the majority quite frankly becoming the minority? And can't you look at an alternate way of social engineering where you give the rights that are supposed to be given to even the Marathas? Isn't there any other way rather than giving this up to 72%, sir? Even as an opposition party, you don't think there is any other feasible way out?
No,
Doomed or die?
I'm not with Asif Bhamla, who told that activists are misguiding the communities. In fact, even after 10% reservation to the Marathas were given, the Jarange Patil is still asking that all economically weaker Marathas who are not having Kunbi certificate should be given a Kunbi certificate, and they will enjoy the reservation under OBC. So even after Maharashtra government giving 10% of reservation, the agitation of the Marathas has not been satisfied because they are not convinced that this uh, ordinance of the government or government special reservation to the Maratha will not be upheld by the state high court or the apex court of India. So this is a complication situation, and I am of the opinion that it should be sorted out and government should go to, because when I look at these Marathas, I don't feel more than 10% of the total community, they are above the economical weaker sections limit. But most of the farmers and all these things, they are performing the cultivations and they are struggling to survive. So I am with the Jarange Patil, and but Maharashtra government has their own OBC leaders who are objecting that you are certifying them in the as a Kunbi, and they will enjoy the reservation, and OBC candidates will be deprived of. So there is still there is a complication, and
Okay.
one way the Marathas are not happy with this government and OBCs are against this government. So, as per the election politics is concerned, Sneha, they are
And you are
Mahayuti
hoping
is
that this
Yuti
would
in this
polarize
election.
votes and benefit you.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. They are against the policies because it is confusing, na. Now, even after this
Okay.
decision, the
Okay,
status
no,
quo
I
has
get your
been
point.
maintained,
Dr. Nikul
and
Patel, in fact, let me just go across to, oh, all right, let me just go across to Krishna Hegde ji. Krishna Hegde, you heard what right now Kishore Tiwari said, and he made a very relevant point. Dr. Nikul, allow me, let me just go to Krishna Hegde because he had spoken about the government right now. Mr. Krishna Hegde ji, he's saying the point that Jarange Patil is still protesting because they don't trust you. They don't trust that this 10% is going to stand before the court. Their demand was give all the Marathas Kunbi, get them under the OBC. So was it largely because the OBCs would have been extremely upset that their share of quotas are decreasing? At the end of the day, this new mechanism of getting a 10% added on, wasn't it to shield that? Considering OBCs, by the way, also, for our viewers, a hugely influential vote bank in Maharashtra. But to you, Krishna Hegde?
Yeah, firstly, we gave 10% for education, 10% reservation for jobs. We gave around 60 lakh Kumbi certificates scanned to them. It is the intention of the government. It is the intention of
No, but that
Eknath
was
Shinde,
not for
Devendra
all
Fadnavis, and
Marathas.
Ajit
Kunbi
Dada Pawar.
certificates was not for all Marathas, sir.
Yeah, so it is the intention of the government to see that the Marathas get the reservation. Unlike earlier the leaders who did not stand in court, where Sharad Pawar Sahab himself a Maratha leader when this agitation started from 1980, he was a chief minister 3 times. So he was a Maratha leader. He didn't do anything for the Marathas. Similarly, in the Uddhav Thackeray regime, it was struck down in the Supreme Court because of lack of translation, lack of paperwork, lack of will. But again, when our government came, we worked hard for them. We surveyed almost 2 crore houses, and it is the intention of the government. Firstly, you have to see the intent. whether a government wants to do it or no. I would squarely say that the previous regimes did not want to do it, and our regime, whether it is Devendra Ji's or Eknath Shinde, wanted to do it, and therefore there is an intention to give the Marathas the benefits, and we are going to give it. That is what our Honorable Chief Minister also, took a promise in front of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and he said that he himself is a Maratha, son of a Maratha, son of a farmer, and he gives them the reservation. Until now, we have managed to do it.
Okay, Dr. Nikul Patel, I was reading, and you can check me whether I'm right on that. You could correct me on it. A significant number of farmer deaths by suicide in Maharashtra and Marathwad area, for that matter, are from the Maratha communities. So you also cannot see the fact that politics is also about meeting these very, very crucial demands. Agrarian crisis is staring every year. There are reports of farmer suicides, of death by suicides among farmers, about crop failures, about loans not being able to be repaid, about families losing their loved ones to such a distress. And it's a story repeat mode. Whether it was your government or whether it's the current government, it's just happening again and again. Now, a reservation like this, which is going to be very challenging to stand the test of court scrutiny eventually when the court resumes hearing this, how is this going to help that cause?
See, whenever any elected
And
government is there,
let me
is
add
always
one thing.
working.
The fact that this 10% additional has been given, I'm sure voters are also not fools. They totally understand and see through this. And they see through the challenge that will be before the courts. As a politician, I'll ask you this question as well as Asif Bhamla. Do you see votes consolidate or polarize with what has really happened in terms of the Maratha quota with respect to you and the MVA? Please go ahead, sir. Two questions to you.
Firstly, any elected government, its basic objective is the welfare of the people. Now, when it comes to a farmer suicide and whatever Maratha Vada we are facing, the agrarian difficulties, so the government must be able to come with a solution for that in a different way. Now, when it comes for a reservation, always the elected government, which are also defined as the lawmakers, their prime responsibility is to make the social upliftment of the people by giving the policies, and if these policies are not in line with the constitutional requirements, then definitely judiciary will play its role and turn out that policy that this is not going to work out. So ultimately, though the intent of the government is good, they are showing to show their intent, but they must also be able to understand the popular demand. And just for the mere sake of saying that it's an intent, that will not make the way out. Second thing, I think you asked about polarization. Now, whenever sentiments are attached with a particular policy, people will definitely try to see it in a way. But the past, if you see the history of what NDA government, Devendra Fadnavis had come with the proposal of putting down the reservation, but that was turned out by Supreme Court. So I don't think that this time this is going to help it out, because I don't think that this government, Eknath Shinde, what it tries to convey will make it out to the people into the Lok Sabha election. So ultimately, I will say that government must be working for the welfare of the people as well as the society, putting the reservation for social upliftment. But when it comes to a constitutional thing, they must realize that they are the lawmakers, and ultimately they must do something which is really in the larger interest of the people to whom they are responsible.
Okay, last question to you, Asif Bhamla, and maybe I'll take the same question to Kishore Tiwari as well. But Asif Bhamla, to you, my last question. Jarangi Patil is protesting. He has not called off his protest. He's already threatened that if by June, he's given a deadline, I think if by that 3rd, I think is the deadline that he's given. If by June 3rd, this issue is not sorted out, they're going to contest elections. Their people, their leaders are going to contest elections in the assembly elections. The consequences are very high. The stakes are very high, Mr. Asif Bhamla.
We are lawmakers. The government is in place here. But again, there is a law, there is a judiciary, and then there is a court. Like my friend mentioned. But what I'm trying to tell you is that that I understand this, and I am sure by now the intent, हमें जरांगे पाटिल जी की दलीलों की जरूरत नहीं है अपनी क्रेडिबिलिटी प्रूव करने के लिए. जरांगे पाटिल की जरूरत उन लोगों को है जो उनको भड़काने का काम कर रहे, जो आग में तेल डालने का काम कर रहे. ये उनकी मानसिकता है. हमारे पार्टी की और देवेंद्र फडणवीस जी की इंटेंट क्लियर नहीं होती तो पिछली सरकार में जब वो मुख्यमंत्री थे तब उन्होंने इसको सर्वसम्मति से पास ही नहीं किया होता in the assembly. So nobody can doubt, nor the Marathas can doubt. And the work of the existing government in terms of deliverables is there. I mean, when it goes to Marathas also. But as I earlier also mentioned, I am still reiterating that we also have to work within the framework of law. हम सरकार है इसका मतलब नहीं कि हम कोर्ट कचहरी की और रिजर्वेशंस के
Let me take this question across to Kishore Tiwari ji.
हम जो कुछ चाहिए हम करें. We are not a banana republic.
Fair enough.
And we have done.
Fair enough. Kishore Tiwari, if I can ask you the same question. So it's very interesting that for a very long time, the Mahayuti was mollycoddling Jarange Patil. And now the tones and tenors have totally changed. Is that how you also look at Jarange Patil?
No, the issue of Jarange Patil, he is from the Nizam-ruled state of Marathwada, and where Kunbis were given the certificates of the Marathas. And there is a complication issues. You will see the Krishna Hedge admitted that now they have identified around 3 million Kunbis from the Maratha. So Jarange Patil, what the Parange Patil has been asking, the Mahayuti government is doing. They are giving Marathas the reservation under OBC cadre with the Kunbi certificate. So the issue is being they are losing. The Kunbis are also worried. The Kunbis who are dominating the part of the Maratha communities, they are also worried about this adding up of the OBC communities. And so I was telling you, this Mahayuti, their OBC leader are also protesting, and Kunbis are also upset. Mostly in my area, there are the Marathwada and Vidarbha. The Kunbis are there, and Congress and my party and even this India Alliance has filled 6 Kunbis, and they are getting elected. In fact, Nitin Gadkari is losing the election to the Vikas Thakre, who is Kunbi. So this is the government decision who is being denying the third opportunity to my beloved friend Narendra Modi ji.
All right, Kishore Tiwari, you literally left your last strongest comment for the end of this show, but I of course have to go to Krishna Hegde. Why don't you respond to this? Why don't you respond to the last salvo?
Yeah, what has happened is Kishore Tiwari ji, my friend, has now become an astrologer, and he is already predicting election results. And I think he is very upset that what he could not do in 2018 and 2019,
Krishna,
we have done it twice over. In 2021, we've done it earlier in 2019 and now again in 2023. So I think Kishore Tiwari ji also knows that his party and his alliance, the India Alliance or Vikas Agadi, is not going to come into power. And I think Kishore Tiwari ji, I think you should predict our victory soon, and also wish well for the Marathas that they get the reservation.
No, you are not
and
getting
the
a
OBC
single
reservation
seat.
is also
second round, you are
not
not
disturbed.
getting single
All
seat.
right, okay. No, but there's, amid all of these jibes at each other and sarcastic smiles and laughters, there's one thing for sure. Maratha Quota as an issue, as you can see in this panel itself, has not only polarized parties on the Maratha Quota lead protester Jarange Patil, but is likely and hugely going to polarize votes as well. And that's something that is uniting the political parties ahead of elections. Well, thank you very much, Asif Bhamla, Krishna Hegde, Kishore Tiwari, as well as Dr. Nikul Patel for joining us and adding much to this debate. Thank you very much.